Hello and welcome to the big picture. Faced with a series of crises and criticisms in the last over a year or more, both the UPA government and the Congress party seems to have decided to take it head on. At one of those rare party rallies held in the Ramlila Maidan here in Delhi on Sunday, the Congress party got together its three most recognizable faces, Party President Sonia Gandhi, Prime Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh and its generation next leader Rahul Gandhi on the same platform as its chief ministers and state party presidents watched with thousands of people. The message it sought to send was that of unity and commonness of purpose between the government and the party, even as it took on its opponents both at the party and the government's level. The Prime Minister's hard sell of the foreign direct investment in retail, as well as Sonia and Rahul's attack of its opponents on the issue of corruption, signals the party's decision to overcome its problems with aggression rather than timid responses which it has been accused of. Will the party in its new aggressive avatar be able to sell itself to the people? Will it now be able to overcome charges of corruption and policy paralysis of the government? Will it be successful in projecting itself as the party of change? We will discuss all this today with Nalin Kohli, BJP spokesman, Professor Zoya Hassan, Dean, School of Social Sciences, JNU, and Dilip Cherian, founder, Perfect Relations, and an image consultant. We'll be soon joined by the Congress General AICC Secretary, Mr. Bhakta Charan Das. Welcome to all of you. Zoya, first to you. Do you think that this rally which was held yesterday has helped the party in any way in improving its image?
Well, it's early to say that because the rally was held just yesterday. But I have to say I found the rally rather surprising. Very surprising, if not somewhat shocking, that the Congress party and
all three of them coming together was, it was for the first time actually.
No, surprising because of the issue that they have decided to take up to. That is to say, a public rally openly supporting FDI in retail.
Right.
Now, I find that surprising. Now, of course, it is significant, you're quite right, that what this does show is that the party and government are on the same page.
Right.
So far, we were told, for the past 3 years, there were clearly differences within the Congress party and differences between the party
and
leadership and the government. Now, it seems they have been able to overcome some of those differences and they are on the same page.
At least on public...
Yes, and number 3, this rally was of course significant because it does signal the anointment of Rahul Gandhi as not just number 2, possibly number 1, going by the fact that he was the first speaker, in this meeting.
Okay, Nalin, you think Zoya has raised a very interesting point. She says that the government, that this rally may, supporting the cause of FDI in retail, and your party has raised some issues on that, saying that what was the Prime Minister doing earlier and why he is supporting now. What do you think of that?
Well, I think there are 2-3 issues here. First, of course, and I'll comment on the issue itself of FDI and multi-brand retail, to specify it. I think if you look at it from generally what's facing the public at large, price rise and inflation is the single most important factor.
Right.
If we just look at the recent past, the price of LPG and the reduction of subsidized cylinders is a key problem affecting virtually every class and certainly the poor and middle class. Now, in that context, you will note, and the second is, if you look at the issue of corruption, while from a common man's perspective, it may just sound very large figures, the impact of corruption on price rise, in terms of what it has impact on government revenue and things like that, that's also intricately linked to the larger subject of inflation and price rise. Now, from that perspective, when you look at it, the Prime Minister addressed the country after a gap of many, many months, 30 months if I recall correctly, and if you look at yesterday, you are not tackling the issue which hits the common man the most, which is inflation and price rise, and you're keeping it on an issue of FDI in multi-brand retail. Our party's position is very clear. When in Parliament...
Is it very clear?
Yes, it's been absolutely clear. There's been no confusion ever throughout on the issue of FDI and multi-brand retail. We've maintained throughout that when on the floor of the House of Parliament, it was said that a consensus would be built among all stakeholders, and this was clarified. Mr. Venkaiah Naidu released a press He released all the minutes of that interaction on the floor of the House of Parliament, when it was saying all stakeholders, so that includes state governments, that includes obviously people who are affected, and when you have no consensus first among the allies of the UPA, one of them, Ms. Mamata Banerjee's party, pulled out on this issue. Second is there is no consensus apparently within the Congress too. At least the Kerala Chief Minister has on record said that they are against FDI in retail. And certainly the opposition, we believe very firmly, it's not good for the larger interests, at least at this point of time and in the foreseeable future. And if you look at it from the simple point of view that FDI and multi-brand retail, they say will help the common man or will help the farmers. There are two products particularly that we can take as examples. Mr. Jaitley has pointed that out repeatedly. A, milk. Milk in, say, Europe or in America, 38% of the retail price goes to the producer. In India, approximately 70% of it is going to the producer. The second issue is sugarcane, which is where it's directly farmed to the factory gate. And in sugarcane, if there was no control from the government in terms of pricing, already we have a host of problems facing the sugarcane growers. So we don't see it. And the third factor is, if it was so good, why would the West, particularly Europe and America, have to subsidize
So
agriculture
are you
by
saying,
$1 billion?
Nalin, are you saying that your party has now finally come to the conclusion, come around to the view that FDI in multi-brand retail is not on? As far as your party
but wait a minute, when has there been a confusion on this, Girish?
Your party was the one which moved this
Yes, hang on.
proposal.
I will answer that. I knew where you're going. First, let us talk about the entire tenure of the UPA. If I may also refresh your memory, it is Mr. Priyaranjan Das Munshi who considered it and said on the floor of the House, it's an anti-national move.
That's all right.
Hold on. I'm coming to the BJP. I'm coming to the BJP.
As far as the government is concerned, its changing stand is very evident.
Let me answer.
I am asking you the question.
Was it a decision? Was
there
ever a decision?
Now
on
there
the
is a
floor of the
decision.
House? No. Was it a decision under the NDA?
No, you people raised this issue. You people
Was it a
proposed this
decision?
issue. You
Was it
didn't
a
have time.
decision?
You didn't have time
No,
to
hold
take a
on.
decision. That's all.
You can't
Anyway,
if and but. If politics would run on if and but.
Anyway,
we never
are
took
you
a
saying?
decision.
No, Nalin, are you
we
saying?
are throughout. I'm
that-
saying it on the record. Our party stand has been consistent. Every time the topic of FDI and multi-brand retail has come, we have said throughout we are
Anyway,
opposing
this
it.
discussion
and we
is
have our
not.
reasons.
This discussion is not simply about FDI and multi-brand retail, but the point that the BJP has now taken a stand that it is against FDI and multi-brand
We have
retail
taken it
seems to be clear.
consistently.
Okay, Dilip. The question, yesterday's rally, which Zoya says is quite surprising, and she even says it's shocking. But it was done with a particular thought in mind, with a particular purpose in mind. What was that purpose, you think, and have they been able to achieve it?
From an image perspective, I think the target was chosen wrongly. This is not something which plays out in the mass mind. This was a public rally.
Right.
This is a political messaging which is going out. And the political messaging has to be on something which touches a chord among common people.
So
While
what Nalin says that on issues of price rise and things like that, or do you think it is something else?
I'm saying they should have chosen some other subject. I'm not getting to the subject yet. I'm saying if Dr. Manmohan Singh has staked his personal kind of enthusiasm on FDI in retail,
Right.
I doubt that this served any purpose other than saying, for the moment, the party is not going to pull you down on this issue. We are with you for the moment, and let's provide a unified face. Was this meant in image terms to say, let's enhance the Prime Minister for this point of time? And if it did, then I think it's too expensive a route to do this. It could easily be done by pronouncements by Mr. Rahul Gandhi or Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, which would have done the same task. In terms of public messaging to the masses, which was the attempt, and in fact, today my theory is that as much political mileage can be got from rallying all your workers and your local level leaders to get people in buses to come to Delhi, as can be achieved through television and through all the social media, which also reports on this. So people are actually getting that messaging. And in any case, this messaging is not striking on something which has any chord with today's anxieties and issues. What are the anxieties today? Low growth, and FDI is not going to trigger some huge enthusiastic growth. Two, a lack of basic infrastructure on all these issues. And the third, the point that Nalin made, which is extremely important, price rise and the fact that the young are not getting jobs. these issues were not tackled, and they need to be tackled frontally. And I do agree that it's better to have one issue than have many issues, but this was not the issue.
This was not the issue. But I think there was another purpose behind this show of strength, if you can call it, where to project Rahul Gandhi, as Zoya was pointing out, not maybe as number one, number two, but even as number one.
Number one, I think.
Did they manage to project him? Did he come across? Of course, he has managed to raise some controversies by one of the statements which he has made there. But has he managed to, have they managed to project him as a viable leader of the generation, next generation?
One of the theories of any leadership of this kind is that you need an early victory. Mr. Rahul Gandhi severely lacks that chance of, because everything he's touched so far hasn't been, shall we say, immensely successful. So they are hoping that using the FDI and the fact that it's almost like a sitter that is going to happen because it doesn't require any further passage through either parliament or through any other democratic process, they are hoping that they'll be able to demonstrate that he backed a winner this time. FDI actually gets onto the ground. If that is the fond hope of the managers who are managing Mr. Gandhi's rise and anointment, as Zoya said, good luck to them. But this kind of a win is not a political win.
Okay, Zoya, this is not a political win. Then what was it? What is it supposed to have been? What were they trying to do? What do you think they were trying to do?
Well, it was principally a show of political strength in the face of problems that they have faced over the past 2 years. I think clearly the UP as well as the Congress Party has been rattled by the anti-corruption movement, by the stand that the middle classes have taken. They fear losing middle class support, by the stand that the media has taken. So I think in that and then of course now the charges against various important members of the Congress, including the ruling family, so to speak. So I think this, in against that background, this was an attempt to show their political strength.
Or
I think they have,
one more. Do you think it was essentially more of, instead of change of image or something, to get their own people together, to rally they got all the chief ministers, the state party presidents over. Was it something to do with the internal party dynamics? Were they trying to tell the party itself that we are together?
Internal party dynamics. If anything, it is internal UPA dynamics. Yes, that is to say the Congress and its allies, because they have not been on board as far as the FDI issue is concerned. Secondly, let's not forget, on the FDI and retail, they've decided that only the Congress ruled states, which is about 6 to 7, are going to implement it. Now, if Walmart, which is anyway facing major problems in Western countries, if it decides to come, it is then looking to the Indian market as a whole. It's not looking to the market in 6 states, that is Delhi, Rajasthan, Haryana, and so on. So I think this was, in a way, a message which was really a message for the party, it was a message for the allies, and it was also a message to the multinationals and to Walmart. That yes, we can get this going, because at the moment it's not even clear whether this, even if they decide to do it in 6 states, whether Parliament will let this be passed, because there is every chance that there may even be a resolution in the winter session against it.
Let's
find out. But may I just complete one other issue, which, as I said at the outset, which is really surprising. I see this rally and the fact that this was on the issue of multi-brand, foreign direct investment in multi-brand retail. I think this is a turning point for the Congress, because clearly the Congress seems to be shifting to the right of center, which is really a very unpopular position to take, given that there is such huge political and economic discontent, of which inflation is one issue, but there is very widespread discontent. I mean, there hasn't been a period in post-independence history, I can only think of the 1970s before the emergency, where there was such a concentration of protest and discontent expressed through local, national, all kinds of... now, in this context, to then pick up an issue which is clearly not a very popular issue, and that is FDI in multi-brand retail. I mean, one is really wondering about the political strategy of the Congress.
Okay, now we are joined by Bhakta Charan Das, Secretary of the AICC and a Congress MP. Bhakta Charan Das, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing.
Okay. Now, just before you came, there has been some kind of, the panelists here in the studio were discussing about yesterday's Ramlila Maidan rally and what the purpose behind it. What was according to you, and what was the purpose behind that rally?
Yeah, the purpose behind this is to give a clear-cut and a very strong signal over whatever has been happening in the country, that the opposition parties, being non-serious, are trying to destabilize the nation, and they're standing as a blockade on the way of reforms, and they're weakening the democratic institutions. So that's why the Congress party, for last so many months together, they have been thinking for a great rally of this nature, and our leaders have been firm enough to address this rally. And yesterday, you have seen the result.
Okay. You think, Bhakta, you think that you have been able to achieve any of those purposes which you people set out to achieve?
Naturally. Opposition would not agree on this, but it is true that we have achieved the result, that we have given a very strong signal and message. The way the media should notice and it should remain in circulation, I don't think it has given that space. Such a big event has not occupied that much of space.
You think the media has not given the kind of space which it should have given? But the question is, Bhakta, since you came a little late, Professor Zoya Hassan was talking about, and also Dilip Cherian, who is here, both of them were talking about how it was not the right issue to have been taken up at the rally. FDI in multi-brand retail, this is something which is a very controversial thing. It's still not been accepted across the country. For the government and the Prime Minister, as well as the Congress party, to have put all its stake behind this at a rally like this, was it an advisable thing to do?
You see, the government is run by the UPA and headed by the Congress party. The Congress party is facing so many things, ups and downs, and all over the world the economic crisis is faced by the government only. It is the government to address the issues. So while addressing the issue of the growth of the nation, and several social welfare measures need to be done, and it has to be continued in the process, and the subsidy also to be given. So under this circumstance, the ruling government is facing certain things, and that is why
So you
the
accept-
government feel that the government strongly feel that FDI is warranted in the country.
Government strongly feels, but does the party also equally strongly feel?
Naturally, the party has expressed its concern. Honorable Congress President and Sri Rahul Gandhi ji have expressed their concern along with the Prime Minister about the FDI, which would give benefit to the nation. Mostly the farmers of the country would be strengthened, and the consumer would have better quality food, better quality material in a moderate price.
Okay. At least the Prime Minister seems to have convinced the party, at least, if not the nation so far. Anyway, we'll go into a short break now. Please keep watching. We'll come back very soon. Welcome back. We are discussing the Congress party's rally in Ramlila Maidan yesterday and asking the question whether it will be able to, create a situation where it is seen as the party of change. Nalin, we are going through a very the situation, the political atmosphere in this country is obviously very. Every party is facing. It's volatile as well as fluid. So, but your party yesterday your party also had a rally, or at least some of the leaders of your party joined some retailers and created. But are you sure that within your own party there is clarity now on many of the issues? And
Let's focus it on-
your own party president also is facing problems.
Maybe, but that's not the topic of today.
Yes,
We
that's
could have
not
a
the topic
separate
of today,
discussion
but
on that,
yes.
and I'll be open to have a discussion
Okay.
on that. That's not an issue. But and on the record, he has said what constantly maintained, that in spite knowing that there is a Congress government, a hostile government to us, that yes, he's open to anything. But we'll have a separate discussion
Okay,
on that.
we-
Let's
we-
come back
okay.
to the rally here. Mr. Bhaktacharya Das raised a point that I'd like to just point out our view on it. First and foremost is the BJP, and I'll speak for the BJP, not the other opposition parties. We have no hand in running the government, and I think it would be interesting to expect that we have a hand to play. No, I'm going to point it out.
He
When
says
it
that
comes
you've
to
all
growth-
been weakening democracy.
Yes, I mean, he's entitled to his view, and I won't get into a debate on that. But I'd like to point out, when it comes to building infrastructure or building roads, we have no hand in that. When it comes to building, strengthening the economy, we have no hand to it. Deciding on monetary policy, we have no hand to it. What I can certainly point out is in 2004, when we demitted office, when our party was no longer elected to rule the country again, at that point, we left the economy in a robust condition. Well stated by the Economic Survey of India, and Mr. Chidambaram, as the then finance minister, clearly saying it. When we left, there was low interest rates, high growth rate, and low inflation rate. Where we are today is high interest rates, low growth rate, and high inflation rate. So I think it's 8 years of performance under an economist prime minister, a well acclaimed economist. I think the Congress party has to answer it. And the people at large, through multiple elections, are constantly sending that message.
See,
Good
one
luck
of
to
the
Congress
charges
party.
of the Congress party is your party's changing stands over issues. When you are in power, you take a certain stand. When you are go out of power, you take a different stand. In fact, this was one of the issues which was raised by all the three leaders yesterday in the rally. So, how do you?
Well, okay, I'll answer you on 2 points on that. I have already said that FDI and multi-brand retail was moved as a note in 2003, which has been clearly, there are hundreds and thousands of notes that move. but decisions matter.
Your
No, no.
former finance minister has
hold
said that at that point of time we
Let me
thought it
answer-
was the
let
right
me
thing.
answer. Let
Now
me
we have
answer.
changed our stand.
And certainly, if I may just for a second go back, there was opposition to the decision. It never became a decision. There was opposition to the consideration of a decision. It never became a decision. That's the first part to it. Second is, I just pointed out that in 2004, we had an economy in the robust state. We don't seem to have the same thing today. And the third point I want to come down to is that about rebuilding consensus in Parliament, the onus, and Mr. Kamal Nath was recently on a show, even I was there on it, he constantly, and he said it, that you build consensus, and consensus building, the onus is with the government.
Absolutely.
There have
I
been
mean,
issues
about-
where we have
about
supported
that,
the government.
I don't think about that anybody has any doubt about it. Anyway, Zoya, now coming back to Congress party and its plans and its what it wants to do. So you think this rally has given the signal to its own party workers, its own leaders about Rahul Gandhi being the next leader, and all of you take it seriously, and we are going to project him. Is this the beginning of the projection of Rahul Gandhi as the next prime ministerial candidate of the Congress party?
I think there was no doubt that Rahul Gandhi is number 2 in the party. This rally, perhaps, and the speech that he made, which was a forceful speech. It was very forceful. It was very self-confident speech that he made.
But he has come into criticism on one of the.
Surely signals his coming of age, so to speak. And I think there's one interesting thing that I may point out, that when I look at when we assess the 3 speeches, that of the Prime Minister, the Congress President, and Rahul Gandhi's, I thought Rahul Gandhi's speech was somewhat different from that of Mrs. Gandhi and Dr. Singh, in that Rahul Gandhi was still trying to position himself, not only as an insider and outsider, which he's always doing, insider for taking credit of the achievements of the UPA, which are many. We have to face that. There are many, many achievements of the UPA. But as an outsider, when he says that the political system is close to the Aam Aadmi. But at the same time, I think he was doing another interesting thing, which is different, and that is that he was still, in a way, like UPA 1, was trying to combine growth with equity. And he did talk of 2 important things which are to come. One is land acquisition, and the second is food security. So I think he was, in that sense, significantly mindful that in this country, with mass deprivation and mass poverty, which has really gone down very, very slowly, you have to address these issues.
Right. Dilip, what Zoya was... that insider and outsider, being both trying to project himself as an insider as well
Interesting thing,
as
yeah.
being an outsider, saying that in this country still the Aam Aadmi getting into politics is a problem. This theme he has been sticking to for quite some time.
Yeah.
But how far is he able to carry across these points convincingly?
In terms of choice of subjects and in terms of indication of tilt, he is doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because for the Congress party, given its vote base, this is very important for him to keep a hold on.
Yeah.
And in a sense, he is saying, I think the distinction that Zoya makes is correct, but there's also, despite being the inheritor, I also am your leader. So there's that imaging which he's trying to give, which is all right. In fact, this is a great rally if you look at it from that point of view. Flaws and faults in the speech aside, I think the fact that he has shown
for a change, he was talking extempore. At least he had some
Yes.
points, but
And
he was
he
talking.
spoke,
The other two
very
spoke.
confidently
Yes.
for
his
15
body
minutes,
language
yeah.
was extremely confident.
Very confident.
And the fact is that also the other subtext that we have to remember is that they held the rally at a point in time when voting was going on in Himachal.
Himachal.
That I thought
So
was very
there
interesting.
was also an attempt in a sense to circumvent
Right.
the other anxieties about what is allowed during a poll and what can be said. So in some senses, from that point of view, we have the young leader, he's been anointed, he's in place, and he's with the people. These three things were being done.
Nalin, if you want to
Not at all.
say
No,
anything.
No, not at all.
Quick
I think,
way if you
I'll
want
give it
to.
straight, Amit. What the Congress party, their strategy is about Mr. Gandhi being anointed or not, I really won't pass a comment because that is really the Congress party's prerogative.
Okay, that's that. And last words to you, Bhakta. Zoya Hassan, before you came in, made a very interesting point. She said yesterday's rally, when pointing out that the focus on the FDI indicated a shift of the Congress party's philosophy from center of left to center of right. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with that. The kind of way the strong message was given by Rahulji on the issue of the political party's reformation of the structure of the political party and about the land acquisition and food security bill. I was walking with him by foot in the Bata parcel area.
Yes.
In the extreme rainfall, he was walking along with the children, with many villagers.
Okay.
And when he had gone to Niyamgiri Hill in my place, that is Kalahandi, how he worked for the tribals and he stood by the tribals. The concept in Mr. Rahul Gandhi is very clear about leading the nation, and his aspects are very strongly going to be implemented in future.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what BJP says that they have no role. They have a greater role in destabilizing the nation. They should not forget it.
Okay. But anyway, it's very interesting. You people think that Rahul Gandhi is the leader of the future, and he still you continue to argue that he still retains the left of center approach, but maybe the government is going left or right of center, and the party remains left of center. We don't know. We'll keep watching this. It's an interesting thing. Thanks to all my guests, Bhakta Charandas, Nalin Kohli, Professor Zoya Hassan, and Dilip Cherian. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on the big picture same time tomorrow.